Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report. We're back after a couple of weeks off and we're fully in 2017 mode now as we're done looking back at the 2016 season and before, and now we're fully just looking at 2017. Here again with Coach Burdett, who's rapidly becoming the co-host's understudy. Yeah, we're at the bottom. How's it going, Coach Burdett?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah?
Can't complain too
Draft
much.
prep going well?
Well, it was. And then the last 2 weeks, everyone decided to either get suspended or injured or traded.
Yeah.
So all of my previous draft prep is just ruined.
Pretty much.
Or a lot of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We're not going to cover any of that in our show because we only really start delving into the fantasy stuff when the teams are set, because we're not a fantasy podcast. We are an LOC fantasy podcast. We have a specific purpose. And that's exactly what we're going to talk to you about today. Today we've got the 2017 review and the draft primer. So what that entails is 2017 preview. Sorry, I said review. Preview. We're going to probably go team by team, talking about what we think is going to happen for teams in the upcoming season. Maybe some general stuff about what we think the upcoming LOC season is going to be like. And maybe some bold predictions mixed in here and there. We'll see how we go. And we're also going to have a draft primer, just really discussing the workings of draft day. We've all done it at least once before now, but it's always good, I think, to refresh ourselves and recap it, and a few reminders, and obviously detail the draft order and everything as well, of course. So we'll get straight into it with the league news. So, league news. It's a dead period for the LOC until we get into the season. There really is much news, especially after we do the Passport game and the Division Lining event. But as always, this constant reminder until the day, 2nd of September, will be in the morning, is draft day. Do not double book yourself. Make yourself available, whether that's Skyping in or not. Doesn't matter, as long as you're there. I think everyone is. You replied the other day. Phil said he's ironing, which I think he can probably get out of, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big commitment, but he should.
Yeah, I think he can. So
I think he said he was calling in, though.
That's fine, yeah. And then Nigel.
So you can iron whilst on Skype.
Exactly. Well, between your picks, you can iron. There's nothing wrong with that. And then the only other one I haven't heard back from is Nige. Nige, if you watch this podcast, please let me know if you can come or not. I assume you can, or at least Skype in, but you should be around. So, and as always, remember, actually no, I'll cover the rest of it in the draft primer. That's what this show is about. So, we won't delay any further. We'll just do a 2017 preview. Now, if I try and dig out, have I got somewhere the AGM recap, because that's a good place to start with the changes we've made for this season.
A few big changes.
Yeah, a few big changes. So
mainly one,
and it is absolutely going to have a big impact.
Yeah.
Where is it? This makes for great reading. If you've got any comments, nobody's watching right now, but if you are watching on a lag or you do join, please comment as we go along. Right, so I have the minutes right here, so let's go to the bottom. So the action. So team changing powers after games have started are hereby removed. Team changing beforehand with notice is fine. So previously in the seasons, we've obviously had a rule that if you've got a good reason to change your team afterwards, I can do that, or the commissioner can do that. Equally, beforehand, if you can't access your team, or you don't think you might not be able to, or whatever, or if it's a late kickoff, you can let me know in advance, and that's absolutely fine as well. However, for the 2017 season, no more of the after game kickoff. So before the game's kicked off, you can let me know however long before you want, and I can change your team. After that, as soon as the site locks, really, as soon as the game kicks off, absolutely no filter. Doesn't matter if it's a minute or an hour late, or you forgot, or you didn't have internet access. No more changing. What kind of effect do you think that's going to have for the 2017 season?
No, I don't think it'll be noticeable. Last season seems to be a high amount of people forgetting to change players.
Yeah.
And it seemed like no one was trying to benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like from people who've been playing for years as well.
Yeah, like my dad one time forgot to put in a defense that he picked up during the week.
It's like you all know, well, everyone should know now, when you pick someone up, it doesn't automatically put them into your lineup. It's never done that on the NFL website.
Yeah.
And we've all been using the same website for the last almost 10 years now.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I don't think you've ever missed a lineup start. I don't think I've missed one. I don't think even Phil's missed one. And that's saying a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it should just... You know it's coming. It's not like Sunday sneaks up on it.
No,
it's the same time each week.
Yeah, we've got waivers on Wednesday, which is a day later than the most do waivers, but Wednesday still. You've got a full 24 hours. Well, it's more than that. It's pretty much 36 hours really before the Thursday night kickoff, which is just one game, which can, I guess, catch some people out. But again, you know, there's a Thursday night game every week, so it shouldn't again creep up on you. Yeah. And then after that, really, apart from the Thursday night game from that Wednesday, after waivers goes through, you've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and half of Sunday. So really, effectively, four days or so, four full days in which to change your team. And that's not assuming you haven't changed it on Tuesday as well, where you can obviously make some movements before waivers kick in. But I think you hit it absolutely nail on the head with the, people forgetting, a lot more people using it, because I kind of feel when you have that safety blanket, in a way, maybe even subconsciously, people might just think, oh, you know, if I forget to change it, no biggie, whereas now, you know, even if you think you can't check it or whatever, I think whereas people before maybe would have just played it like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll just let Nathan know afterwards. Maybe if they even have an inkling now, they'll be like, oh, I'll just let Nathan know just beforehand. So I think that's probably the only impact. But in terms of actual games, because I would say each season this does happen, at least maybe once or twice. Yeah. And whereas before we've obviously negated that effect to make it a like-for-like game. However, obviously going forward, if it does happen, it's going to have an impact, because it essentially means one team is going to be playing an injured player that they didn't want to play, or a bye-week player or something like that. And that's obviously going to have a huge impact potentially in the games and the standings and everything. Well, what do you think that?
One of the things with the bye weeks, if the person's playing on a bye week, you've always got the option to pick someone up off waivers and play them who's playing in the late game. Because someone who's in your starting lineup as a bye week does not count as being played. No, Injuries is a different matter. I think a few people will get caught out this season. And unless it's a late game where you've got the excuse of...
Well, you can let me know before.
I didn't want to stay up till 1 o'clock to find out if this person played or not. Fair enough. Like, that's, as we just discussed. But I think a few people will... It'll come to 6:10. They would have set their lineup maybe in the morning. Someone was shockingly ruled out and they didn't change it. But notifications on your phone, it's 21st century.
Yeah, I mean...
it's a Sunday, not...
Especially if you know the guy is an injury risk. Like, if you've been following it, if you haven't been following it, I guess...
It's very rare that someone will just be ruled out without any prior warning, like on the Saturday or something.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So everyone just needs to pay a bit more attention if...
Yeah, for sure, if it does happen, So, right, what else did we have that was changing? So the waiver method, I think, was the only other thing we changed, which, as you were alluding to, was a pretty big one for this season. So previously, the waivers, the way they worked, was at the end of each week, after the game's finished, the standings are recalculated. Waiver priority was set based on who's in last place gets the best waiver, and then who's in first place gets the worst waiver. So basically, the last place team in any given week gets first crack at the players on the waiver wire, which I think rightly people raised that while it does keep the league balanced and fair, it also kind of overtly favours the teams at the bottom who might benefit from being weaks at the bottom and picking up those players, and then punishes the ones at the top that never get a good player until maybe their team gets so depleted they need that guy, but they're never in a position.
It favours people who do bad at the start of a season. Because you're more likely to see a breakout person in the first 4 weeks of the season than the last. And if it's the last 4 weeks, then someone would, in our league especially, someone probably would have picked them up before that. So if it happened to, like, I think me and you, we had good records last season, Pat as well, and we just couldn't get anybody. By the time that I'd fallen to the bottom of the waivers, there was nobody.
It was the end of the season. Anyone who emerged was only there because of injury, which few and far between. And even when injuries happen, there's no guarantee the guy who's coming in is any good.
Yeah.
But no more. That is all gone. We have scrapped that for the 2017 season and perhaps onwards. With the waiver acquisition budget, where each team now has a budget and it works as a blind auction on the waivers each week, with the tiebreaker being your position in the standings, which is fair enough. But the likelihood you're bidding the exact same amount, it probably will happen at least once or twice, I imagine. Maybe on the lower value
Which
guys.
way is it? Is it the lower down person?
Yeah, it would still be as before, but obviously the criteria would be you'd have to bid the same before that happens. So, I mean, in a sense, you could argue, it's made it equal, which in a way is unfavourable to the worst teams because they've got less opportunity to get better in the sense that they're in the same position as a good team, and if they spend money, they're not going to have that later on, but the good team might have money later on in the season, so on. But on the other side of the coin, it means everyone gets fair crack, right? You're doing a blind bid, so it's up to you at the end of the day how much you want to bid, and if you lose out, in a way, if you lose out, you actually get the advantage just in a later week because you're going to have more money than anyone that's put money on. So it's almost like that transitions however you want to play. If you're a good team and you want to splurge for a guy at the start, you can do that. If you're a bad team and you want to splurge for this player at the start, you can do that. Or if you want to ride it out for a bit, then you can do that as well. So it's interesting. I think it's going to make it a bit harder for teams that are worse coming out for the draft in the start of the season.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think, the last 2 years have been very close in the league, very close, right? And I think some of that is because the waivers in the 12-team league is so much thinner. So I think you'll probably see competitiveness get a bit further apart. But whereas it's always been, I don't want to say chance, because obviously fantasy's heavily based on luck in a lot of cases anyway. But where it's so competitive and you get dragged back or you get pushed forward by this, it's anyone's game almost. Whereas this, at least the draft has a bit more importance because you need to draft well, but then you can also manage your team. You have a bit more control of managing your team throughout the season, so it feels a bit more earned if you go, well, what do you think? How do you think it's going to affect?
The good thing which I can see it doing is people may draft lesser handcuffs because of the way it could work. So if you lose your starting running back, but you're top of the division, no longer do you can be like, okay, well, that's my season ruined because now I can't get their backup. I can't get with the backup running back to my team who would essentially fall into an RB1 or RB2 situation. Now you can be like, okay, I'm going to mitigate this by making sure I win this. So it should stop people's seasons being ruined by injuries, I think.
Yeah.
Or key injuries. So like Pat's got derailed last year because Gordon went down. Yeah. And things like Pat could have easily got his backup in that case.
Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
There's various other situations where this has happened before, where the person's season's ruined because their number one overall draft pick goes down.
Yeah.
And you haven't drafted their backup because it's a nobody who turns out to get 25 carries a game.
Yeah.
They're still going to be fantasy relevant. So I think it will help that. I think, it will be a lot more skillful than the normal waivers.
I mean, again, I put skillful with a big asterisk because at the end of the day, it's a blind bid. You're going to bid what you value a guy at. Yeah. And if, everyone else is going to do the same.
Skills are like tactics involved. So, like, how you spend your budget.
Yeah.
And whether you try and, like, if you know everyone's going to have the same thing, whether you just try and rise that bid up to the point where, okay, you either get them,
that's going to be interesting. Are we going to get...
Or you've caused someone to spend all their budget.
Are we going to get stuff on the message boards, do you think, like, oh, I'm going for this guy?
Yeah.
Because we haven't put any barring... There's no rules against saying, oh, I'm bidding for this guy in this much. We may have to look at that in the future season, I don't know.
Does the auction only count up until like the Wednesday, and then like after the Wednesday
it's normal free agency? Yeah, so normal is before in the sense that you've got waivers, and then after waivers are cleared, everyone it's fair game for anyone. So yeah, the other interesting thing I think about it, where I think you're right, the skill element does come into it, is you can look at after the waivers have gone through who bid what. Yeah. Even if you won or lost, you can see who bid what for what player. So you do get a sense of, especially the teams that might be spending money, like, oh, this guy's only willing to put this much on, so I'll probably only need to put this on to get the guy, or you know, also this guy's targeting these kind of players or so on. So it will be interesting. It will be a really interesting addition.
Yeah.
I hope it's successful. We'll have to see. It's going to be a jump up for some of the guys in the league.
But everyone's new to it this year.
Yeah.
It's not like some people have been doing it before.
No, absolutely.
Everyone's new to it, so no one's got an advantage.
No, absolutely. So that was all of the league changes. So now moving more generally, I guess, we'll go through a team-by-team thing now, I guess, and do a complete preview based on absolutely nothing, but it's always fun to do.
We could look at draft position.
Yeah, we'll talk about draft position, and then we'll
manager preparation. If we know that.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to maybe world projections of that, and then we'll just finish up with the draft primer. So that's a good idea. So we'll start off with the team that came last season. Actually, no, let's do it the other way around. Let's go top to bottom. We went bottom to top with the 2016 review, so we're going to go top to bottom from last season this time around. So Ixan, who've obviously been renamed recently, won the title last year. We as we uncovered, didn't have the best of finishes to the season, but they did what they had to do. They got the job done. No one says it has to be pretty if you get the title. They got the job done. The past 2 years, we've seen a very analytical approach, which I think certainly in 2015 it seemed to work. I'm less convinced it was as effective in 2016.
I think we sort of got to the root of he played people in better weeks for him.
Yeah.
It could have been so much different.
Yeah. So what do you make of what do you think Ignan's or Coach Sherwood's outlook is for 2017?
Well, he's going to build his spreadsheet again.
Yeah.
But the word on the street is several other GMs are building spreadsheets, and they've put a lot of time into them. I won't name any, but I know a few have.
Interesting.
So Ben couldn't.
That's breaking news for the LOC report.
Which could mean he's got some competition in terms of
Moneyball is becoming.
I think he's going to have another solid year. I think.
Yeah.
I just think that although he doesn't pay the most attention in the league to what he's doing, he's always aware. He always knows when his players are playing, who's injured. He's always like on top of it, and that just sort of leads. I think he'll do really well in the waivers. I think that's something which he'll analyse quite well. Yeah. So I think that'll be good for him. But it's got to be I can't see him repeating just because we haven't had a repeat winner yet.
We have
back to back years.
No, yeah.
So I can't see him just based on stats on that. So it'll be a bit of a down year, if you will, not coming top. But I'm sure he'll have another.
I think that's accurate. I wouldn't be entirely surprised to see him not have a bad season, but maybe miss out on playoffs, as you just said. I think the following year can be hard sometimes for some teams, and I think, as we said, 2015, I definitely think what he did in the draft was special. It helped him get there. Last year, I think you more hit it on. I don't think the draft was quite as good, but he made up for it and obviously got a bit of luck along the way. This year, I could see probably maybe a bit more of the same, just with the luck maybe not coming his way as much. Just missing out on playoffs. But I think, he's established himself as one of the better coaches in the LOC, absolutely, if not one of the best. Yeah. So that's Ixan. So his counterpart in the Corona Bowl last year, Corona Bowl 8, was ADRZ, Coach Wells, who won it the year before in Corona Bowl 7. Now, Nigel had a curious start to the league because I think he made the playoffs in his first season. Or he just missed out. Yeah. Won 7 games and lost the rest or something like that. Yeah. Then he made the playoffs the next year, I believe. Down year or something. He was alternating between good and bad years. Yeah. But really, since 2014, I think he's made the playoffs every year. So for the last 3 years, he's made the playoffs every year. What do you think? Do you think that's going to continue? How do you see Nigel?
I can't see. We touched on it in the podcast. Like, he has his good weeks when he plays like other good teams who are having a good week. Yeah. And he has his bad weeks when other teams are having bad weeks. If you flip that scenario, he could have. It could have just gone completely opposite direction last season for him. So many games were so close, where he was beating teams like 80 to 70 kind of thing. Yeah. And if you'd played like his overall or the I can't remember what it is, the page where you can see what your overall is against everyone across all the weeks.
Yeah.
Seen it for someone who made it to the final, he was quite low down on that.
Yeah.
And that's not something which is a sign of... Like, Ben was quite high up on that. Ben, because he did really well through the start of the season.
Yeah.
Ben was quite high up on that. And that's what you sort of expect from someone getting to the final back-to-back years and winning it this year. But Nigel was a bit lower down. And he had some bad luck along the way as well. Everyone has good and bad luck.
Yeah.
His luck, I reckon this year could run out or be worse than better.
I think that's a fair comment because the last 2 years, like you say, this is fact. We're not, pointing and making judgments. This is fact that he has conceded the least amount.
Yeah.
He's obviously got no control over that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And his team has still scored well. It's definitely been at least mid-table in terms of score. But, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Really, it's a blessing to have the lowest scored amount. It makes everything a lot easier, providing your team's doing okay as well. And I just, I can't see it happening for a third year in a row. I think you're absolutely right. At some point, it's going to have to change, and maybe he gets a better team and offsets it a bit. I don't know, but I think what we see from Nigel each year are pretty consistent teams, capable of good things. They can also stumble a little bit here and there, but you're absolutely right. He's benefited a lot having those okay teams or okay to good teams that benefited. They made it look a lot better because of the teams they're playing against. So I think playoffs. I'm never going to count Nigel out. The playoffs, he's made it 3 years in a row. Good coach, but I agree. You could definitely see a step back.
Yeah.
So our other playoff teams last year. Then let's go to Pakistan next. So Pakistan, this is his 3rd year as a head coach now.
Yeah.
4th year in the league.
Not great
as a coach.
Season.
Yeah. So first year we'll double back. Was a coordinator for Jeff Seals, real learning year, not great. Next year, first full year as the head coach again. I think he had a bit of a poor draft, that didn't help. But again, we're still really just learning the game. Took a couple of years, but then the light switched on from last year. Really good season, really good draft. Everyone came out of the draft saying, you know what, great team. And that showed through. And as we said a bit earlier, the waivers really affected him, lacking being able to get good players and a few injuries here and there. Going into 2017, what do you see? Because he's had obviously more bad season than good.
Yeah.
One good draft. It's a short sample size, but how do you see?
So from what I've spoken to Pat about, I think his draft strategies, he's gonna have a good. So he's gonna be in the top half of the, just based on he knows what he's doing and just from our discussion. I don't want to give anything away on who he's looking at or anything. So I think he'll be fine in the draft.
Yeah.
I think the issue could come with. We may find out this year whether it was him not making opportunistic waiver pickups last year, or whether he just didn't get a chance. Because I wasn't paying attention to Pat's waiver pickups because it wasn't my team.
From what I remember, I think you're right. He did work the waiver, but I don't think he ever really benefited. He got some replacement level guys, but never really found
the strategy. Like if you don't get the top waiver pick, is you don't look for the week which is just gone. You've got to look. Okay, who's playing who in the next few weeks? What have they done? And will they be able to repeat it? Okay, I'll take a punt on these guys rather than being like, oh well, this person got injured. Everyone was going from putting a waiver thing and I didn't get him. So it'll be interesting to see if that's what was holding Pat back last year, or he just wasn't making the right choice in that. I think he'll be fine this year. I think he's going to have another good year. But
I could see him, again, another team I could see slipping out of the playoffs just because I think he had a great draft last year. Probably one of the best in recent memory, I think it's fair to say. I don't think we've ever come out of a draft with people being so unanimously great team. And I don't see that happening. I agree with what you're saying. If he gets better at the waiver, I think that can make up for it. But I think that takes time and experience. So maybe it happens partway through the season. I'm not sure if it will happen at the start, especially with the new waiver system. I think obviously learning that on top of trying to do those kind of things is going to be tough. But I think I agree. I could definitely see a good season out of Pat as well. So the dream team then, Viv, is another team that has had great success for many years. He's made the playoffs ever since 2013, every single year. So that's 4 years in a row now. He made the final in 2014. when he played Tom. Yeah, when he played Tom for a second win. So only one Corona Bowl appearance over those 4 years, one and done in every other playoff season. Each year, the team just looks really good. I don't know. He always seems to draft the flashy guys, but they seem to have a bit of injury risk in there as well. But I think a combination of waiver making up for it and some of those guys hitting, he always seems to have a good season. And at some point, you've got to say, is he going to win? Or has he missed his window? What do you think?
This season very much comes down to he drafts big name players a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And when they hit, or they hit quite a lot of the time. He doesn't draft people which aren't expected to do well. He drafts people which maybe like they'll have a 20-point game, then a 3-point game kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he seems to make up for it by drafting enough of them. He's always got those people putting in the 20-point games to cover for the people who have a bad game. So you never really see down his roster from when I've played against him. It's never a case of he beats me in every position.
Yeah.
It's he absolutely destroys me in some positions,
mm-hmm.
then other positions I'm beating him in.
Mm-hmm.
But where I'm just beating him and he's beats me by a lot in the others, he'll get the win. And like, I think, how long will it carry on before those players don't click? I don't know. He seems to be doing well for the last few years. I can see him having a very similar season. The issue with this is everyone finished so close in records last year. It's very difficult to determine.
Yeah, I think he was a division winner. I've got it here, but again, I think you're right. He had the same record. Yeah, he had the same record as two other teams in his division. Won it on points. Came back and won it on points. Might add.
So his will come down to whether the players or not. He'll do a similar draft strategy. He'll draft the flashy players.
Yeah.
And his season will literally just be in their hands. So a good. I know he doesn't draft them often, but a good similarity is his team is like Deshaun Jackson. He'll either go off and score 160 points one week, or
he does have some low weeks. Yeah, that is the nature of the players he picks. I think you're right.
But so far he seems to have more better weeks than worse weeks.
Yeah.
So
I think he's going to win it. I think he's going to. I think this is the end of his window. I think the only other team we've seen have this kind of success this long was Phil.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say, who was 5 years before his first season. Before I think he made the playoffs 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
2014, so 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Was 14 the first year he missed, and I don't think he's made it back since. 14 was okay, but the last two have been not so okay. I think your window comes to an end at a certain point. It has to. It's so hard to sustain fantasy success like this year after year. I think this has to. If this isn't the year, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah. A lot of other teams are getting better and know the league a lot better.
It just feels like there's this kind of cyclical thing where I had a really good start to the league, you had a really good start to the league, my dad did, then we all kind of had a down period. Then we've all come back up again. I think Chris, similar kind of thing. He was really in the same boat as us, I guess. Good at the start. Had a really good season 2011. Dipped for a few years and then has come back up. Phil with the opposite. Has been good ever since the start really. Then has made that dip. Tom, I think you can argue Tom started slow. Really had a good few years in the middle. Maybe from year 3 to year 6. And then after that he's been down. So I think you have a window in fantasy, and this is year 5 now. This would be the 5th year, tie a record if Ruth makes the playoffs again. I think he can do it one more time, but after that, I think his window's shut if he doesn't do it this year. So we shall see. So the non-playoffs teams now. This is where we really test my memory. So Cash for Gold, I believe, was actually the 5th place team, at least in standings. His rookie season, by all accounts, he won the Overachiever Award, a great season. The team was not great. He benefited at some points from some really good players on his team, and also some faltering opposition, let's say. A year under his belt, what do you think is going to happen in his sophomore season?
It's going to be interesting. He rode, from what I remember, Aaron Rodgers and Elliott towards especially the tail end of last season, who would give you about 60 points between them on any given week. However, he will not, or he could get both of them this year, But Elliott's not going to play for the first 6 weeks, and Rodgers, you'd figure, won't play like he did last. So, if we see a more well-rounded draft from him, I think he'll do okay.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting huge things. It is only his second year. Like, you can't ignore the fact that it's his second year and everyone else has at least 4 or 5 years minimum.
So, 3 would be Pat. 3, 2 of head coach, 1 of coordinator. Yeah.
So it's a case of, it's going to be a learning curve. The waivers system is probably going to hurt him more than everyone else because he probably wasn't up to grips with the other one as much as everyone else.
Yeah.
So now he's got to just abandon that and then learn something brand new while still trying to learn waiver techniques or tactics. So it could be a frustrating year for him. I think he'll have a good draft because he'll go for players which he knows are good. He won't take the risk and be like, oh, I think this person's come out of this training camp and done this. I think he'll go for house names, which isn't a bad thing, but it's just whether they're 10 points a week isn't really going to cut it in our league anymore.
Yeah.
You need more than that, so it's...
I hate to say it, but I think he's going to have a bad season just because thinking about it just while you were talking, all of the cases I could think of other than the first year the league was formed, the sophomore seasons of new teams typically aren't very good. I think in Viv's first season, did he make the playoffs? Or have a good season at least?
He may have made the playoffs.
I think he had a down year the year before because there was a period at the start of his career he was up, down, up, down. I think Nige may have been the same. I think he had a decent first year. He either made the playoffs the next year or had that 3-13 season, 3-11 season, sorry. You saw with Jake Simpson, the real QB, had a really good, I guess, 3/4 of a season when he won the league, but the next year the team was terrible. You saw it with Pat, who, I guess if you count the year he was the offensive coordinator for Jeff Seals, the year after that was terrible. I think you need 2 full seasons to just get the exposure. Yeah. In your first year, it's kind of, you don't 100% know what you're doing. Yeah. You're not really sure what the causes of success are. So second year, you go in and go, I think this is this. You kind of experiment a bit, and then you figure out, okay, this actually does work, or this isn't right, and you get to see the other teams how. I think the other teams transition as well is a helpful thing. So, I think he can succeed. I agree, but it's a tough league, as you said. Sophomore year is not a good year for most coaches. So I think unfortunately a down year. But if going off with Pat and Viv and Nige, really third year is really the leap year. So it's worth going through that for a season. I think it's fair to say. So the next team then we have after them is Bare Necessities, another team that, as we said, was good at the start, had a bit of a dip, and they've come back up again, hovering around wildcard contention each year. I think they made the playoffs in 2015. Always the steady Eddie, it seems. Always the team that drafts the injury-prone players who inevitably get injured. And while I think he has a good rep for picking waiver players, it's, maybe not always, how the reputation kind of proceeds sometimes. I don't think it's always a gem, but I think each year he'll at least find one guy who will help him out. But what do you make of Bare Necessities in 2017?
He's always gonna be annoying to go up against because he's gonna field, he's gonna pay attention, he's gonna field a starting lineup. Yeah. Some people you can hope they won't start. So, and that also carries over the fact that he keeps on top of waivers. You normally see him picking up people each week on the Tuesday or maybe Wednesday this year, which is sometimes someone who's sort of looking at who's doing well, looking at who isn't. Yeah. He's got a good draft position this year. I think that will help because he gives you sort of that elite player where he's picking.
Where, 5, I believe.
Yeah, where you don't need to worry about maybe picking. Okay, you've got an elite player, but that injury prone at the back end of the first round because I think he's been back there the last few years. Yeah. So it is a huge difference that an elite player, which I'd say is about 6 or 7 in the league, to not getting one. Or on paper at the start, obviously people have breakout seasons. So it's, I reckon he's going to have a good year. I think around where he's done the last few years, I don't see any reason why I'd be like, okay, he's going to have a better year or a worse year. I just think he's going to consistently put out 6 to 9 wins. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I could see a playoff season.
Yeah.
Honestly, he's been bubbling around it the last few years. I think he's getting more gun shy on those injury-prone guys. Do you think it's fair to say? I think going through the worst draft picks of all time, which we'll circle back to at the end of the show, actually. He had some really going through that, looking at the previous season, you can say, oh, it's an element of bad luck, but when you go back and look, it's like, actually, it looks like he was targeting these guys, and you kind of got what you deserve. in a way.
You look at this, you look at the league story, and a lot of the same people are up there.
Yeah.
And then people blame their seasons on, I drafted this guy and he got injured.
Yeah.
So he's been injured 3 of the last 4 seasons. Like, I don't know what you sort of expect to change. Like, I'm trying to think of an example of...
Aaron Foster's a great example.
Yeah.
I think from 2013 to 16, he's been on the worst draft pick of all time.
Yeah. Or
at least for 3 years. And Jamal Charles is another one who's been on their last 2 seasons.
Where it's just like people are like, oh, well, I didn't know he was going to be injured. And it's like, well, everyone else did. That's why they didn't pick him.
Yeah.
So
I think, assuming he avoids that, which I think he will, I think he's shied away from those kind of guys, because I think the reason he used to take those guys is because they obviously represent great value because they fall because of those problems.
Yeah.
And where he would usually snap them up and be like, yeah, I'll take the risk. The risk didn't usually pay off. Now he's a bit smarter about it. I think he takes the safer guys, which ultimately help him out. So I could see a playoff season. So the next team we've got is the Brady Bunch, Ross's team. So Ross, last year was his second year out of retirement. First year was okay. Last year was pretty good. Nearly with a playoff record, 7-7, so at 500. He does not pay as much attention as most coaches. That's not a dig. I think that's fair to say. Both years of the draft, I think he's rocked up. Maybe without doing any prep. I can't remember, just using the sheet that I provide. Waivers, he's not particularly active. I think he does some stuff. And again, changing teams, not a lot he focuses on. 2 questions. Do you see that continuing this year? And also, independent of that or inclusive of that, what is the outlook?
I would say if it does continue like that, he could well come bottom, just based on everyone else will be picking up waivers and probably getting better players this year, or players which they need more because you'll emphasise your waiver priority on, or the money you've got in waivers on the position you need. I think that could hurt Ross if he's not up to date with that. I think he'll draft the well-known players who are on the sheet. He won't take the risk or knowingly take them. He'll just be like, okay, this person.
Those well-known guys though aren't always a good thing, because you see some guys like I'm trying to think, Adrian Peterson this year. You see that name and you're like, oh, Adrian Peterson. If you're not really clued in,
and then week 7, John Coons stealing 3 of your touchdowns.
Exactly.
It will happen.
But no, I think you're right. I think you can chance this league, and I think he did a bit last year. He got quite fortunate with J.J. emerging, who was still on his roster at the time. Antonio Brown did have a bit of a bad year last year. Carl Hyde was a bit banged up, so I think he did well to get 7-7 last year. But I think you're right. Yeah, if you don't pay attention, it's not going to work out every year. And that way is a surefire way to come to bottom.
Yeah.
Just because of the preparation on, not doing waivers, even if it's in the bye weeks and you're not doing the waivers, for that reason alone, if you need a player after that, there's nothing left almost. So you just have to pick up some random guy. And who did he start last year? It was like Andrew Hawkins or something?
Oh,
he got 2 touchdowns that week, which was a complete fluke. But like fair play, but that doesn't happen.
He's a new fit on that.
Yeah. Well, I think he already is, isn't he? But yeah, I agree. But okay, assuming he does pay attention, how do you think it's gonna pan out?
I think he could do similar to what he did last year. I don't see a playoff season just because he is one of the newer guys. Nothing against him. He's just, I think there's.
And if he does pull another targeting a player, that could affect his draft. Because I know he's got another team name, I don't know what it is, but if he's gonna, last year, I think he could have done better without targeting Brady.
Yeah.
Just because it was the 4-game suspension and it was quite early. He was good. Don't get me wrong, worthy of that pick, I think, but maybe didn't need to do it even though.
Yeah, there was better people which would have helped his team more.
Yeah. And he could have even maybe got Brady at his next pick, I think.
Yeah.
That 4-game suspension, I don't know who. I wasn't even going to touch him. that high.
I don't think anyone would do that high.
No. So, yeah, but it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. So, that was the Brady Bunch. Now it is my team. So, my team, like we said earlier, good start to the league, dipped for a few seasons in the middle. And really, the last few teams, I've been kind of like Venice. It's one of those teams haven't quite made the playoffs yet. I've had playoff records, just missed out on points. Bit of the opposite last year. I was obviously leading, as you said, for most of the way. Didn't have the record, but I did have the points last year. Yeah. What do you think? I'm not going to talk about my team for next season, obviously. What do you think about my team for next season?
Yeah, I think the waivers you'll be one of the people the waivers benefits the most, because your depth of knowledge of the sort of waiver or which players are available, and just paying attention just around the league will be higher than at least half the league. So I think you'll benefit, because last year you tailed off because you had a good start and then you couldn't get the waiver picks to boost your team. You got a few good people, as everyone, but one person's not going to save your season if people get injured.
No. And I had a lot of injuries.
You'll have a standard Nath draft. There'll be some good picks. There'll be some picks where you're convinced they're going to have a breakout season. And everyone else will be like,
to say I've shed myself out of that. Well, I completely look back and agree doing the drafting. I agree. Yes, I 100% used to do that.
That was the ongoing joke we used to have, where
I feel like shed out
who's
of that now.
taking this year? Andre Ellington. He's a breakout player this year.
To be fair, the year I took him, he was the breakout player. Just saying.
And then it was also Lamar Miller was
Lamar Miller and Danny Amendola was where I was like, I need to stop this now and get my act together.
You'll have a good draft just because you normally have a top half of the table draft. You draft the players who they've got a floor, a good floor each week. Yeah. But it just comes down to you got hampered by injuries last year.
Eric Decker went down, and my receiver core wasn't great. Doug Martin went down.
You look at this player and you go, it's only Eric Decker and Doug Martin, but Eric Decker started off the season with two really good weeks. Yeah. And if he played the whole season, you've got at least a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3 flex position there, which I think hurt you through the season where you didn't have that.
Yeah, receiver was a
I think 1 week you were started. God knows.
I started Malcolm Mitchell in the last week of the season.
And it's just like Eric Decker or Malcolm Mitchell. Eric Decker would have been peppered with that. So it's just things like if you have a bit more luck, I reckon. Yeah. Could go to the playoffs this year, but it's hard to call. I think.
Yeah, it's hard to call, especially without teams.
You'll have a solid season, but it's just down to. I think yours will come down to the player luck rather than the luck of this person could be good or could be bad. It'll be down to he tore his ACL and what am I going to do?
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree with your assessment, and I completely agree. Looking back, those bad seasons were completely to blame because of those picks you mentioned. Yeah. It's okay to take who's that guy pick when it's the right time, but I look back and I'm like,
everyone's done it.
Everyone's done it. Yeah.
It's just because you were on earlier on, more people noticed it because there wasn't as many people, and it really hurt those seasons.
Yeah. And I feel I learned. I feel I've learned from that now and be like, right. Yeah. Like you said, safe players to begin with, and then I think the one criticism I would have of myself is I kind of stick with the safeness too long. Yeah. Maybe I'll go into it, and that I think partially gives credence to when an injury happens. I'll have maybe those guys to fill in, but they're not as impactful. Whereas, you can probably find a guy on the waiver like that, right? You don't necessarily need to draft. You shouldn't draft safe the whole draft. Anyway, good assessment of my team. Thank you. 9 then, Forge Flyers. Now another team that he's never had the highest of highs. 2011, he was the regular season champion with a 10-4 record, I believe. One and done in the playoffs. Only playoff appearance in his career. So in 8 years of the league. Around that, he's had some middle of the table seasons. Yeah. And obviously, in recent memory, he's had some
bottom of the table
seller seasons. Last year was definitely an uptick. He finished 6 and 8 in the end. Yep. But again, at the end of the season, that was kind of hampered by losing Marcus Mariota. But what do you think Forge Flyers can do in 2017? Can they build, or will they just kind of simmer?
This is Chris's playoff year. I reckon this is. Looking at his team last year, it's criminal that he didn't make the playoffs. Yeah. Pretty much every round we were going through the drafts, best pick was for Chris. he just, and looking at his record, he just got so unlucky. He was sort of the flip side of Nigel. And those two could very well have been flipped in standings, and Chris very well could have gone through.
I think it was not having the quarterback at the start for Chris.
Yeah,
that really killed it. Cam Newton was not a good quarterback last season.
He saves it with Mariota, and then he was unfortunately went down. His waiver pickups last year was the best I've seen from Chris recently. He picked up some good Titans players, which he was Titans or bust a lot of the time, but he picked a team which were high scoring on offense.
Yeah.
So it's not like he went Browns or bust, which would have been hilarious if anyone did that.
Oh, God.
But
that's why we're not a 14-team league.
Yeah, or a 16 league, which is the most interesting.
That's not good. That's not good. Yeah, I don't think there's much to say about Chris because he's an experienced coach. I think he had those 2 bad seasons, which maybe even in a similar reason to me, he kind of went after guys like Ryan Matthews and Toby Gerhart that had
the last keeper league.
Yeah, that had that upside, and it just didn't pan. Did I include Toby Gerhart on that? Let's drop it all the time. Must have skimmed over that one.
It was a strange one because it was traded for, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it may not have seen
I think it was as the 7th round pick. So that's, Anyway, but those seasons were really easy to explain. I definitely think Chris is at least a mid-table coach. Yeah. At least a mid-table coach, and I agree. A playoff season, one playoff season in 8 years. I'm trying to think. I think he's probably the most playoff drought team, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The team that's made the playoffs the least over the course of the league.
Yeah.
And that's what luck's got to turn, or that performance has got to turn at some point. I think you're right. Who we got next? We have Tom's Tyrants. And so as we were saying, poor start to the league. Good, very, very good middle. 2 champions, the only 2-time champion. Recent seasons, I think they've been okay teams. They've been a bit hot and cold. Last year we obviously saw them lose the first 4, win the next however many,
yeah, it's always streaky.
Lose streaky. And it really, since I think it's fair to say 2014, he's been a slow starter.
Yeah.
Obviously had the title win in 2011. Great year in 2012 where they went 14-2, went out in the playoffs, but 13-1 regular season. Won the title the year after that, squeaking in with, I believe it was a 7-7 or 8-6 record. But then that was the slow start with the slow start years, and every other year it's been a slow start. What do you think's going to happen with Tom's Tyrants, Coach Barnes this season? Is there going to be a strategy change, or are they just going to keep going at it and turn the tide?
It's his earliest draft pick he's ever had.
Pick 3.
So I think I think he could have a different start to the season because he'll have that elite level player.
Yeah.
And he won't have to be okay, normally he picks at the end and he's okay, I may have to pick this person who's going to have a good season. It may take him a few weeks to get going.
Yeah.
He's guaranteed one of the top 3 players in the league. Yeah. Or, to be fair, it would have been a top running back until Zeke went down.
I think
but
he's underratedly good at the waivers. I don't think he gets any credit for that. If Chris was here today, he'd be hyping him up because he has to, because he lost to him in the Chris 4th playoffs. So we're not going to do that, Tom, unfortunately. I think he hit the nail on the head. He's going to have that solid base of 3 players, I think, from the first 3 rounds. He's going to find something in the rest of the rounds, and he's going to get a waiver 2 here or there. Playoff season, I think I agree.
Yeah.
I could see a playoff season easy peasy. Not much to say about your team, Tom.
Slow
start though. Do you think they'll be? You don't think?
I don't think he's. I reckon he's going to have a better. I don't think it's going to be like a 4, and I reckon he'll have a better start.
Yeah, I agree.
And that'll be enough to put him into the playoffs.
Yeah, cool. Right, we get to your team now. Your team. I'm assuming you don't want to talk about your team, so I will talk.
I'll add a comment at the end.
Okay, sure. Go
Just depending on what.
Yeah. So another team that was good at the start of the league, kind of had. I think you've been pretty around the middle for most of the time. There's only been one really bad season I can think of.
Yeah.
I think your team is always a really good one, but sometimes a bit of luck doesn't go your way, and you just miss out on the playoffs. Is often the case. I feel like there's so many times I've seen your team with pretty much their record, maybe 1 win short of a wild card or something, but you've always got the points. It feels like it's a good team, like with my dad's team. You never want to play against it. I don't really know what to say. I think you're good at the waivers. I think you'd agree you're probably not the best, but that's not I mean, I think I could call anyone the best. You pay more attention. I don't think you go as much for the deep dives as everyone else, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you're a bit more patient with waiver players, and that pays off. But for next season, I think it's just going to be more of the same. I think you had that one season where you obviously had the great team and then won the league. It's a tough league to have a great team and do that with. I don't see that happening, just because you always have good drafts, I think. Not necessarily great ones, apart from the one where you had the great year. Always have good drafts, always do well on the wire. You're always good, right? I think you're always in that top 75 percentile of the league. And that's always, that usually always puts you in a good enough place to be in the hunt for the playoffs. And even this year you are, even though you came 11th. But that was only, 2 or 3 wins behind a playoff record still. And next year, I think return to the playoffs. I mean, when was the last time you made the playoffs? 2013?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the year after, where Tom won it, he beat me in the final week of the season to make playoffs over me.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. You're always there and thereabouts at the end. It's just a win or loss at the end almost feels like it's the difference for you in most cases, maybe not last season. Did you have a 3-win season in 15 or something?
It was 4 with maybe my lowest.
4, yeah. But other than that, it's really just strong. I think you can have a strong draft. I think this waiver system is going to benefit you too. I think it really will. I think you're going to be patient. I don't think you're going to splurge at the start. I think you're going to wait and grab the guys at the end. That seems like you all over, and I think that's just going to help you out at the end and get you over the top and into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Agree with my assessment?
Yeah, I think my draft strategy, as I've alluded to you before, I'm happy people knowing this.
Yeah.
Last year, I put all of my players down to my team selection. Like, my roster was the highest scoring roster, including, like, if I'd played with the right people each week and everyone had, I would have had the highest scoring team. That's no more. There are going to be no decisions for me to make. It is drafting a starter and their handcuff in the draft. That is it. You've heard it here first, and you will see it on drafting.
What if you have to draft a guy like Devonta Freeman or DeMarco Murray?
I won't be drafting either of them.
Okay.
I've honestly, my list.
Some draft news.
This is what I was saying about the Ben thing. Like, my spreadsheet has just completely torn the NFL rankings to pieces because
not difficult.
They're questionable.
Yeah, questionable.
So Bren, like, I'm not saying it's going to work. It may not work. I may have a shocking season, but I'm trying something new.
Yeah.
And don't find out unless you try it.
No, exactly.
So, I mean, obviously, I'll have like that sub receiver for a bye week kind of thing.
Yeah.
But last year, it was the fact that I had 5 startable running backs, and I never got it right. Yeah. So I don't want that situation again.
I listen to the CBS podcast a lot, and they're one of the biggest advocates of the handcuff strategy. I personally, I can see the benefits, but I don't know. I can never really. There's just something about it that I don't like. I think you've felt the same way because you kind of look at it as exactly well. You just said it really. It's like you take a handcuff. You're only going to need that guy if your star gets injured. So it's almost in a roundabout way you're using 2 picks in one pair. But at the same time, there's no guarantee you're going to have that backup to come in. You're never going to need that backup unless there is that injury in the first place. So. You've just got to, the one thing I'd say with that strategy is, the backup has to step in and pick up that load.
Yeah.
Or most of the load to make it worthwhile. And that player actually has to be a good player to make it worthwhile. So I'll be interested to see the guys you take, because from that I'll be able to see, if it's going to
I've got the lists down.
Yeah.
It's just whether I can get those people at the right place in the draft.
Yeah, so it's always interesting in our league because I swear it never follows any mock draft you'd see anywhere, which is fine, because we all take it seriously, so that makes a lot of sense. It's probably much more like the industry ones, with a little bit of randomness chucked in from some people. And finally then, long podcast today, but we'll be wrapping up probably maybe 15 minutes or so. Thank you, McTankface, the last team we have here. Phil's team, as we said earlier on in the show, one of the best teams in the league, one of the most winningest teams in the league for years. When keepers haven't had the same success. I don't want to say, that's because of the keepers going. I think it benefited the teams then, when the strong teams, just because they were strong. I don't think it's a certain play style or anything. I just don't think since Phil has had quite the same team, maybe that's because he hasn't had the same base. Maybe that's because he hasn't had the draft as well since then. We've also moved to a 12-team league, but I think ultimately it's tough to call with Phil because you always think, to be fair, he usually has some really good players. I think we all joke about him getting lucky with some waiver ones, but he does kind of take a punt on the ones that you're like, nah, that's not for real. But he's kind of bold, or doesn't care, or just does it to take a punt on it, and it works out, which is fair enough, because that can happen. It doesn't happen every time, but I don't think it needs to happen. The difference, I think, has been in the recent years where he necessarily hasn't had a good enough team to employ that from the draft. I think he's getting a bit, or has been a bit careless with the draft, a bit maybe overconfident. I don't know what it is, or maybe he's just been judging in a different way, whatever it is. Do you think it's going to be more of the same from Phil? He's going to stick with what he knows and has done for so many years, which has brought so much success? Or do you think this year he's going to be like, it's time to pivot?
I think after Gronk last season, I reckon he's going to have a complete change in the way he goes about the draft.
Could we see a normal Phil draft?
I think it could be
a normal first
normal
time in 9 years.
Phil draft. That's what I'm thinking. Or he could do what I've said along, and he will draft Marshawn Lynch with number 12 and Adrian Peterson with number 13, or he'll draft them both on his team as starting running backs. And he will either win the league because they'll return to 2012, or he'll lose the league because he has no running backs. And they're two very real outcomes I can see happening for Phil there. That he will end up with those two on his team. Just because...
If he sticks to Phil's strategy, I agree. I guess so you think he's going to stick with normal Phil strategy?
I'm not sure what he's going to do. I think if his best chances are if he doesn't stick with normal Phil strategy. Because it's not worth it's not worth in a 12 team.
I do think there is credence to the fact that because the depth in the 10-team league on the waiver by no means great, but it is a level better where you could definitely use to pick up a starter for maybe a week or a few weeks.
Yeah.
Whereas now anyone with any value is just sucked up.
Yeah.
So I think there is credence to the 12-team thing. Yeah, I think you're right.
I think Phil's gonna have a bet. I don't think he'll be bottom. I reckon he'll be middle of the table, or even top half.
Each year. I mean, even in 2014 and 2015, the team wasn't a powerhouse, but I think it's still a decent team. It's quite rare to see a Phil team do so badly, and I think that was in large part because of, as you said, Gronk. Maybe last year I don't know.
It's just a lot of injury players. He drafted Thomas Rawls quite early. He drafted Arian Foster.
Yeah, there was some funny things.
Like last year, Phil normally has dodgy drafts, but last year was just a whole. I think everyone agreed at the end. Everyone just looked back, or like in the.
It was quite a strange year. How after the draft we were like, Pat's team, great, everyone agrees. Phil's team, everyone's like, terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had so much unanimous agreement on any team in the league ever. It's usually a shade of grey, but these two were quite black and white.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, the 2017 preview. We'll just finish up with the draft primer. So, actually, before we do, bold predictions. One bold prediction from each of us for next season. Actually, no. So that, and we also say who we think's going to win. I've already said I think Viv's going to win.
I think Chris is going to win it this year.
Okay. Bold prediction then. Bold prediction. Have you got a bold prediction?
I'm trying to think of one. It's quite hard without...
Yeah. My bold prediction. I think... What's the highest amount of points we've seen since we've been a 12-team league?
I'm not sure since 12-team.
I'll look at that while you're having another thing, because I think with the waiver change, maybe this isn't overly bold, but it's bold in the sense that it hasn't happened yet, I suppose. So last year my team had the highest scoring team with 1,464 points. The year before that, 2015, it was, where's the almanac? Where's the almanac? Come on. This makes for great viewing.
Yeah.
Right, give me a second. Have you thought of your bold prediction?
No, it's quite tough. I'm thinking. So one thing which I think is going to change, which I've noted a lot in the other seasons.
Yeah.
No one's ever like. A lot of the teams which start well and never really make the playoffs as such because of the waves. Like some teams maybe, but you always see a few late season charges. I don't see that at all this year.
Yeah.
I think if you get a good step up in your division, let's say if you go 3-0 or something like that, I reckon you're destined to sort of win that division. Just based on, I think
so,
you'll stay out. I don't think there's going to be sort of predictions.
Yeah.
We're going to see some teams are going to do.
Yeah.
Like last year, everyone's record was within 4 wins of each other or something.
Yeah.
This year, I reckon we're going to have one team go over 12 wins. Let's go over 11 and one team less than 3.
That's the thing, actually. That's the other thing. I don't think we've had a team double-digit wins since being a 12-team league. So that's yours, effectively.
One team will either get 1 win or 2 wins.
Yeah.
And one team will either get 13 or 14 or 12.
So I have the stat up. So since we've been a 12-team league, the highest score has been 1478, which was my dad's team in 2015. My team last year was 1464. I predict there's going to be a team that goes over 1,550.
Could well happen.
Which would represent the lowest one, other than the last 2 years, since 2010. Every other one has been over 1,600, with 3 of them being over 1,700. So, yeah, I could definitely see. Because if we look at the highest weekly points as well, obviously we almost became custom in the 10-team league. You'd see teams get 170, 160 quite routine. This season just gone, the highest score in a week was 146. The year before was Ickenham with 160. But that's quite a clip lower. There's obviously a reason for that.
Yeah.
But I think I could see a team going over 1,550. So that's my prediction. So we will look at the draft positions quickly, and maybe just so. Ross is drafting at number 1. I'm drafting at number 2. Thomas Torrance is drafting number 3. Forge Fire is number 4. Ben Assess is 5. Burdett is 6. ADLZ 7. Palestine 8. Cashville 9. Ickenham 10. Dream Team 11. Tank Face 12. So my question to you: who do you think is going to perform best, based in in the draft? Who's going to have the best draft based on their position? Coupling that with the strategy, how they usually draft and so on, who do you think is going to have the worst draft based on their position?
I think Tom's in a position to have a good draft because he's guaranteed. If you think, I think after the midway through the 3rd round, is where there's not a significant drop. I think there's a small drop off there, where I would say that you're lucky if you're in the early half of the draft. I reckon Tom hasn't had that for the last few years. I reckon that's not to mean they'll do better in that bit. I think just on paper the first 3 rounds favour the top half. Yeah. I think Tom's will do good there. I think he'll benefit the most. I think Phil could struggle at 12.
Yeah,
just because
that's what I was thinking. If he gets caught out on a run, I could see him reaching for.
He's always drafted early as well. From what I remember, he hasn't had too many late drafts.
No, I don't think. Yeah, he's not drafted late since being. Because I think you're right.
So Phil could struggle there. So I think sort of 2 extremes, but
me, I think you'll do well in the middle. I think you like the middle. You haven't been dead set.
The irony of this situation is the year we wanted to expand to a 12-team league, I'd got the perfect draft position, and then I'd pick 6 in the 10-team league. Then we added 2, and they both went before me, pushed me to 8. And I was really gutted because I wanted to be pick 6. Yeah. Last year I wanted pick 6 because I was like, these just the way I valued players. Yeah. I thought, okay, pick 6 is where I get the top tier. This year, I think I'm just outside of where I want to be. I'd want to be a bit higher, or a bit later on to get the higher second round pick. So it's sort of just I wanted it all up to the point where I had it. But I think the middle's.
Yeah. The person I think worst. I think it could either be taking the tank for surgery. I think also maybe Cash for goal, just because last year they drafted at the top. you get the benefit of getting those 3 elite guys in the top 3 rounds, or 3 really good guys, and then after that, you say you might have a slight advantage. I'm not so sure, because in the middle rounds, after really round 4 and 5, the ADPs go off the wall, so to speak, and it's all over the place. But certainly in those top rounds, I think you get a bit of an advantage, which he's not going to have. He's going to have to take some riskier players, certainly at 3 and 4. So yeah, I could see a slightly difficult draft, let's say, for them. So really, to mop up, just the draft day primer then. So yeah, so 2nd of September, Saturday, will be a morning draft, so we'll be getting there nice and early, probably around 8:30 we'll arrive with a view to start at 9. So subs are £2. Bring your subs, or I won't let you pick until I'm paid what is due. Wear whatever you want. I will be wearing a suit, unfortunately with some underwear over it. I'm going to talk to Ross to see if he'll let me take it off after a few rounds, or if I have to go the whole night. We'll see. Bring a laptop. Bring a laptop.
Do you have internet?
Yeah, internet. There's a guest network. We'll be doing it at my dad's office again. We might have a new conference room to do it in, I'm not sure. Or an actual conference room instead of a meeting room. So that could be good. Yeah, bring your laptop. Bring some snacks if you feel like it. What else? I will be providing the ranking sheet as usual. However, most of you now really do your own stuff, but if anything else for filling in your team and chalking off who's gone, it's helpful. And we'll be submitting the picks through Facebook Messenger or another messaging app, somewhere I can be reached. So we
Yahoo
don't
Messenger.
Exactly. Don't have to use paper. If you're not there, as we said a bit earlier, you can Skype in. We'll use Skype or Google Hangouts as the usual one. And there'll be a Google Sheet where we update all the picks. Tom will do that, so you can see it live. 90 seconds for each pick again. So if you're practicing mocks or whatever, 90 seconds is how long you'll have. We've all done it before. We know what we're doing. Anything else you can think of to add?
Well, that sums it up.
Yeah.
Just get prepping.
Yeah. Cool. Before we sign off, worst draft pick of all time. What have you made of the series so far?
It's good so far.
I think
there's each time I read it, there's so much I didn't quite pay that much attention to the previous article. So I'm finding new gems each time where I'm just like, you've had an absolute shocker there. I'm glad. I think all of my picks may have now been knocked out.
Yeah, I think so.
So I only had 3 in there, which was good.
Most of mine on 2. Phil had the most before round 2. I think it was 7 left in.
Yeah.
7 of 32.
My personal favourite bit so far has to be the Hakeem Nicks Bowl this week, though.
Hakeem Nicks Bowl classic.
Just because it was consecutive years, Hakeem Nicks up there for the worst draft pick.
Yeah.
It's like fantastic.
Could have happened with Arian Foster, but I think most of his are there's definitely 1 left in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're halfway through round 2 on it now, so we've seen I looked at some of the quarterfinals matchups. Some of them are pretty good, and there's going to be some very good semi-finals ones I can see on the horizon. I think this is my favourite one yet. The best game of all time was a fun one, I think, but we knocked off a lot at the start. You know, I think there was some really clearly good ones.
Yeah.
The best draft pick of all time, again, was a fun one, but
What was the best draft of all time?
I think it was Peyton Manning in the end, or Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, I can't remember which one.
One or the other. But I think, there were so many good picks, and you almost had the benefit of if it was just a late round pick, it was just, if the guy panned out, it was de facto good. But there's nothing wrong with that.
There's more comedic value.
Yeah, there's so much comedic value with this one. Going back and there was so much to choose from as well. My goodness.
This next year is going to be the worst games of all time.
The way, well, I think this year, this will be the last one. I think I'm going to have to end on a high. Yeah. Also because that worst games of all time would be a tough one to do. And I would literally want to claw my eyes out doing that one. Just because it would have no relevance to anything. But I have got something up my sleeve for next season and beyond for our special 10th season. So I'll reveal all in the AGM next year. So I've teased that right now. Anyway, We've been going for over an hour now. Our longest podcast of the season. I know some of you hate it, but this was a good show. It's getting
closer to the season, though.
It's getting close. We're going to have 2 more shows between now and the draft next week. It's going to be a fun one, actually. It's one I haven't done before. It's something I've come up with called Around the Horn. So it could either be great or it could go spectacularly wrong. I'm going to call up every coach live on the show. And it's either going to be great or completely backfire and be terrible. Either way, we'll find out. Might not ever do it again. We'll see how it goes. Then after that is the mock draft show, which is always a good one, which will be the week leading up to the draft. It is only 2 weeks away come Saturday.
Getting very close.
Not long. So get prepping or think about prepping if you haven't already. It's not too late to start. Things still change. So, but we will sign off. Thank you for watching. No one who watched us live, but anyone who's watched the recording and sticking with us this far, we'll see you next week.